Great. Shall we begin?
Yes, Rabbi, you can begin.
So basically, this is a continuation of the last week's class, and we will go into much details about some ideas that we were discussing for Pesach. So what we discussed till now was that in Egypt, there was a certain reality that the Jews had to face, the fact of slavery. But it was not just a regular slavery. It was a slavery where your life had no value. It was slavery where your kids could be killed in the Nile. There was just so much brutality. The Hachamim say that we were, and those who ended up as slaves in Egypt could never get out. They use a term that if there are 40 levels, if things have 40 levels, they were at the 39th level of Tuma, of total degradation. What we need to understand when they say this is that there was a total annihilation of any kind of rights of human beings, total disregard to any dignity that human beings inherently possess. There was no such idea that was respected in Egypt. And they also say one important idea, and that is that Egypt used some kind of magic and necromancy, some kind of trying to remember the word, but some kinds of powers of Tuma, that's what they call it, powers of negativity, to keep the slaves there. And they were so, in Marathi, it's a mahir, so well versed in it, that it was an impossibility that somebody could get out of it. The stories of Egypt also portray that. When Moshe Rabbeinu goes into Egypt, he is bringing a symbol of a snake that he puts in front of the Pharaoh. What is the response? Pharaoh brings his magicians. What kind of a response is that in the court of a king? Magicians? We don't ask these questions, but why were the magicians around over there? What is the role of a magician in a king's court? What kind of a king was this? Whatever remains are there today. From that, we see that there is all this fetish, we could say. There is so much about the life after passing away. There is keeping the bodies mummified, building chambers for the dead in the pyramids. What is all this thinking? Where did it come from? What was the base for this? These are things that, in just one words, that at some point even the magicians say that this is beyond us. This is real. Not that they were magicians in that kind of a way that you could say, hat chalaki. They were doing some tricks. These were people who knew how to make magic. And then they inform Pharaoh that, well, whatever is happening over here is beyond any magical uh, capability. So what is this capacity that they had? Where did it come from? And how is it that the Torah then, because the whole idea we discussed is that the Torah is in a way a revolt to what was happening in Egypt. The Torah sets up a system which takes down Egypt and that kind of thinking. So where in the Torah do we see all that, right? And how does the Torah? So I would like to go a few steps beyond, take a few steps back to really understand what was happening, especially for the Indian person. This is something that they will be able to relate to, because India is still steeped in Avodah Zarah. And although the Avodah Zarah in India today is not probably what was once upon a time, but it still has its seeds in that kind of thinking. So maybe it would be a good idea to touch on it and then move further. So let's take a few steps back and then go on to really understand what the Torah achieved and what we are going to celebrate tomorrow evening. When God created the world, the biggest picture we see is really that there's some kind of waters on which how does it say in the Torah? The Spirit of God hovered over the deep. You know? So there's this idea that there is, I mean, in the divine world where there is no physicality, we are not talking about this water. We are talking about some element over there which is free flowing, some element which has freedom. Okay, so divinity rests on freedom. Let's try to understand this. In conceptual language, the Torah is wanting to say that divinity rests on freedom. There's this ability to be whatever it wants. That's why it is God, right? Hashem has the capacity to act as and however he wants to act. That makes him supreme. When he creates man, he gives us an image of that divinity. We are creating the image of God. And what is that image? I have the freedom of choice. I am free, right? That is what makes me different from all his other creations. That is his seal on humanity, right? That brings me in incubation with him. That's what the Torah is saying. So this freedom, what does God do to create a physical world? He is using this freedom. I'm calling it freedom, the waters. And then he separates the waters. There is a waters above the firmament, and there is a water below the firmament. Then the waters below the firmament are again separated to form earth, land, or whatever, solid mass and liquid, right? So philosophically, or in terms of symbolic thinking, if that was freedom, then there is some constraint. There is some order being set. The whole story of creation is a story of order set into the system. This order and this freedom need to go together. That's when everything is good. First day, God said that it was good. God saw whatever it did, it was good. What it means is there is a balance between this immense freedom called waters and the order that controls it, that puts it into boundaries. So in our reality, we have a play between freedom, which is you can do whatever you want, and a framework, we call it boundaries. What happens in the time of Noah, really, or before the time of Noah, is people started to abuse the freedom. They recognized that the freedom is where the divinity really rests, right? So they started abusing this freedom, this quality of freedom, to do whatever they want, like act like God. Well, the examples the Torah gives us is they went and picked up the children of God picked up the daughters of man, things like that. So there was total what is the word? Havoc, we would say. Total abuse of power. There was total freedom. Those who were in power, those who were in a position to abuse it, they took whatever they could. It is like really in the nature also, in the animal world. No? We also learn it that it is the survival of the fittest. The dominated species is always more stronger. You have the alpha male, controlling the tribe. Those ideas are also in nature because it is in reality. But human beings have to have a balance of nature, which is freedom and order. Order is so it is in their nature to have this. When they abuse one of it in the times of Noah, it was going with freedom, taking or abusing things because you are free to do what you want. God didn't like that, so he set orders to things. He brought down the lifespan of human beings. Even the way the world was changed to have more limitations. So there was more of a order set into the system that such unlimited abuse of power won't happen, so that people will feel that they want to do whatever they want because they're free. So their freedom was curbed more. Once humanity understood this after Noah, Shem, Ham, and Yafet, the son of Mitzrayim is the son of Ham. They then underlined order. What happens in Mitzrayim really is there is a hierarchy of things. From you see the Pharaoh and his officers and the stories of Yosef. There is a hierarchy. There is a total set of power structure in order. So there is a amazing order system, and through the order system, there is order without freedom. There is no freedom for human beings. The lower classes, the peasant classes, the farmers, no freedom. So immediately after that, they see that freedom was a problem. So let us, there is an imbalance in that direction. So there is total order, but again chaos because there is no freedom. Now, how did it happen over there? When especially we were thinking about the Avodah Zarah, the idol worship, the necromancy, or the belief in afterlife, the belief in all kinds of gods, which was there all over. It was not only in Egypt, but in Egypt it was the pinnacle because the Pharaoh himself at some point becomes God. So I don't remember if we discussed this last time. Maybe we just touched on it. But if we look at we said that there's this 3,000 plus years of supremacy in Egypt. 3,000 plus years. In the beginning, we see that the pharaohs, they not only are the kings, but they are also the priests. So they are the supreme priests who are the intermediaries, representatives of the people who will deal with their deities, who will deal with their gods. As they move along, as by the time of Ramses II, but even much before, Ramses II is in the 18th dynasty. I'm talking about the 16th dynasty, 15th dynasty. Those kings were already making these big, statues of themselves, colossi, and depicting themselves at par with God. Earlier, maybe they were the physical, manifestation of the gods, sort of. And later it just became that God basically was just a extension, or they were extensions of God. Okay. Now, these ideas are coming. Where are they coming from? How does this move out? So we have to understand that spiritually, these people were giants. These are the third and fourth and fifth descendants immediately after Noah. Okay, so they were, because they come from, I believe, in a very different creation story uh, as normal religious people tend to believe. I think that there are two different Adam. When the Torah talks about Adam, there is an Adam which creates his Enosh, human beings, and out of that, one Adam, at some point, he is the one who gets Gan Eden. So he is a representative of humanity that grows to such spiritual heights that he is able to then, as a representative of human beings, able to achieve whatever humanity needed to achieve at that point in time. But that particular project of putting him in Gan Eden fails. So that's why the stories of Adam and his children, there was no mention of who they married or whatever, because there was humanity around. This was one family, the family of Adam, which spiritually grew to such heights that they were able to sort of infuse with divinity. Or, I mean, that's how they understood it. The generations of Noah later on, they understood it, that this family, the family of Adam and Noah, have because of their closeness, because of their, maybe we will even call it nevuah, their ability to, it is not nevuah, it is something else, but because of their closeness to Hashem, they were able to claim supremacy. Okay. They call themselves the chief priest or whatever, There may be priests around, but we are the chief priest. We are able to do things. And that is where they have an inroad to manipulate divinity. That is the seed of things. It is the fact that Adam was able to achieve whatever he did, and his descendants had that capacity, although they didn't really grow out to be Adam again, that they were able to reach those heights. but I think they had that capacity. So how does that, I will share a story with you where the Torah explains this in very, very closed language. We have the story of our kings, the kings of the dynasty of David. So there is one such king who, maybe I have even shared it with you earlier, I don't remember, but there's this one king who is okay. He didn't get involved with idol worship or whatever, the Baal worships or whatever was happening in his times. And he decides to take the help of the northern kingdom, because they were separated, the northern 10 tribes and the southern 2 tribes, Benjamin and Yehuda. Their help, he gets mercenaries from north and pays them 1 talent of gold, come and loot the cities of Arad. Up to Arad, he wants to recapture. He has lost his territory. He wants to recapture from Ishmaelites and Amalekites and whoever was here. So a prophet comes to him and tells him, see, this is a good idea that you want to recapture your land. Hashem will be with you. You don't need all this excess power. You send them back. Because if you go with them, Hashem won't be with you and you will lose. So he takes their advice and he lets them go. He asks him, what about my talent of gold? I have given them so much money. He says, who gives you gold? Hashem will, you will regain it. Don't worry. So he tells these mercenaries to go back. They are very upset because they are going to make a lot of loot and everything. They lose that ability. So as they are going back, they loot the Judaic towns in the north of their territories. And they go back. That's what is mentioned. That's how bad the situation was. Anyway, he takes the advice of the prophet, goes down south, makes war with them. There are miracles in the war. He wins up to Arad, which, or rather it is Elot, up to Elot, which is probably Elat, and comes back a victor. Now, what does he do after that? He brings the priests of these defeated nations and sets up their idols in his kingdom. So the prophet comes to him and says, their gods were not able to even save them. You defeated them. How are you? What is the logic behind this, that you have these installed in your kingdom now? But he doesn't listen to the prophet and he keeps those idols. Now, how do we understand this story? What is happening over here? He was an okay guy. He was neither very righteous nor idol worshipper to begin with. But then he gets a miraculous win, right? Where his weak army is able to defeat and he sees the hand of Hashem. After that, he goes and sets up systems of Avodah Zarah. So what are these systems of Avodah Zarah really achieving? It's an important question we need to ask. And only then the mystery of Avodah Zarah at their time, in those times, is revealed to us. See, what is, when we have, even in our life, right, we have challenges, we want to achieve something, doesn't happen. We have plans for something, doesn't happen. Oh, by the way, today we are giving this class. I just wanted to remind, and I forgot to mention, Le'ilu Nishmat, my mother-in-law, Shulamit, Eshet Baruch, and also Baruch uncle's 30th will be on Pesach. So we need to do a sort of hashkaba for him beforehand, and because during the month of Nisan we can't go to the cemetery, especially when there's a whole idea that the Hag, the festival, it shortens the day of mournings. So because of Pesach, his 30th will be on Pesach itself. So we will also give him a hashkaba. Please remind me if I forget at the end of the class. Anyway, so coming back to, so that is Baruch ben Eliezer, Leilui Nishmat, Baruch ben Eliezer Kulet. So what I was wanting to connect this to is ups and downs in our lives. We also have challenges. We want to know. We so very badly want to know the future. That's why people are interested in astrology, right? Why? Because they need to know. Why? So that they can get a handle upon things. Maybe if I know better, and there may be some wisdom in it, that I understand my personality better, I understand my tendencies better, I understand my traits better, so that I will be able to, be a better human being. But at some point, you then make this cross into saying, oh, if I really understand how the sun is strong and how the moon is strong, then let me find out when it is at the right moment, and then let me look at the what is it that they call it? What is the word? Muhurat. Yeah, let me look at the Muhurat, how this will work. What is that thinking? That thinking is, oh, now that I know something more than normal, let me abuse it. Let me put it to interest. Let me use it to my benefit, right? Now think about this whole idea in a bigger picture, where you have these energies, where you know how Hakadosh Baruch Hu really created the world with the Sefirot, and with, you are now in touch with all that, right? Why not use it so that I will have more security for my nation? Why can't I, use this? I'm not doing it myself. Let me install these non-Jewish but gifted prophets to take care of it. Maybe they will be able to manipulate something so that I will not be, because it was Judah, the nation of Judah was a very small nation in terms of the Assyrians who were out there, the Mesopotamians who were there, right? It was a very small, they were probably vassals by that time also, right? So the ups and downs, the vicissitudes of those times motivated these guys. Oh, I got these guys. I won these fellows. They are gifted. They know how to manipulate reality. Let me use them. Why? Because your faith is really weak. And that's exactly what that story is telling you. That although he had prophet, but the problem with prophecy and the problem with Hashem is that I cannot control him. For the last 25 years I have been ruling, no prophet came to me. And I had my challenges. And suddenly one fine morning comes, who will tell me that if he is going to prophesy again in the future? Who knows? We don't know. Right? Because Hashem is Hiya Asher Hiya. I will be that I will be. I will decide. I want to help you. I want to help you. I don't want to help you. I don't want to help you. I am totally free to do what I want. And I am supposed to be in touch with him and be at his mercies. That is really a big challenge, right? So through this small story, we can understand what is happening with Egypt. Egypt has all these insights because they are descendants of Noah, right? They know these, wherever they were, the Sumerian kings or the Egyptian kings or whoever, the Hittite kings, the Torah mentions it that they are all from the family of Adam. You will see in the chronologies, because they went out and use their powers. These are mystical powers to control people, and the people were all ready to worship. They were all waiting because this was something miraculous. And these were the families that went and Nimrod, and those families in Sumer and Acadia, Sumer, Akkadian families, all from Adam. All these families, even wherever, even up to Greece, the Torah has mentioned that these were families of Adam. They were descendants of Noah. Now, again, you will ask me a question: if they're descendants of Noah and there was this flood, then I don't think that the flood was all over the world. Again, I sort of differ in that the flood never reached India. Floods never reached Australia. And they were the Aborigines, whatever, the native people of the original stock over there, who then were, the Europeans went and captured them. Who are the Europeans? Yes, they were from the 5 tribes of Adam. It has been happening. Okay. So what is the bigger picture is that when Hashem gifted humanity with Adam, it was meant for something else, so that he will be able to uplift humanity and do something about their state, to bring in Hakadosh Baruch Hu's awareness to the world. That didn't happen. Instead, what started happening was that they started abusing this gift of whatever the spiritual influx was, to abuse nature and to abuse humanity. And that is where you have the story of Egypt as a crucible, wherein the Jewish people are sent to get a taste of because they are also from the stock of Adam. Abraham is again from Shem. So they taste their own medicine, sort of. They taste what it is because they are outsiders. Even the local population may have been, probably not. The local African populations were not from the stock of Adam. But these were kings who have descended from Ham and the Semitic people who later on descended into Egypt, again from the tribe of Shem. So they understand how bad it is to abuse. As we said, there is an order, a system of order without freedom. Freedom is taken away from people. This is not only in Egypt. Egypt is just a symbol. It is happening all over the world, wherever the descendants of Adam have taken control. Okay. So now HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to change this pattern and bring in something new. This is where Moshe Rabbeinu is inspired with prophecy to bring from Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Moshe. There has been prophecy probably even in Egypt when they were in the tribe of Levi, right? And finally we have Moshe. Now with divine help, what Moshe teaches Pharaoh and teaches these people is, okay, whatever you're doing with the miracles, with using your special capacities of wisdom and influx of the spiritual, is not acceptable. And once after the plague and everything, I'm not going into details, once they come up, they are setting up a kingdom which is in revolt to Egypt, and this whole everywhere, the whole system around. Were they able to achieve it? No, they were unfortunately not able to achieve it. But you will see again and again there are leadership. Uh, in the leadership, there was this understanding. For example, Gideon, when people see that he fought for them and won the wars from the Canaanites, they come to him, say, "You become our king." He says, "No, there is only one king, Hakadosh Baruch Hu is king." When they come to Shmuel, set up a king for us, like in the other nations, he says, "No, Hashem is your king. We have one king." That is the whole concept. Because power will corrupt. You have seen how it corrupts the pharaohs. Tomorrow, your kings are also going to do the same thing. So they were very wary to set up a king. And it did happen. When the kings were set up, they abused the people because that is the way. But still it was done with a certain framework. Like, as we said, the pharaoh, he at some point started believing that he was God himself. Forget that. But even before that, he was the chief high priest of Egypt. So the office of the high priest and the priesthood was separated from the office of the king and the politics. The political kingship did not have any rights even. The sovereignty of the let's say the program was finally with Hakadosh Baruch. The kings were curbed, no taking more wives, not to have a big harem, not to make a strong army. It's when we study the Torah, we really don't pay attention to these things, but all the stories talk about how the army was weak, and that's why it won. There is this whole, there are 4 mitzvot. The mitzvot say, once you decide to make war and you have your army set up, then you should have your Kohen Gadol, who is Mashua, who is for the army, to go and say, who here is frightened of war? And those who are frightened, please go back. Who has betrothed a woman and has not brought her into his house? So who is engaged to a woman? So there will be a few youngsters who will be newly married. Okay, you go and enjoy with your wife. No coming to the army. Maybe you will die. We don't know. Who has set up a new house? Just build a new house. Bye. Go back. What are these guys doing? How many people will immediately, sort of sign on? Yeah, we want to go back. Yeah, it's okay. You are not making the wars. Hashem is making the wars. The king didn't have a strong army. He didn't need a strong army. That is the whole idea. Power is not, because with power you will abuse and will get corrupted. We don't want power. There was a system, a political system, which was set up with three C's, like, let's say consent. First of all, there is a consent. You see, when Hakadosh Baruch Hu himself wants to make a covenant with Am Israel, so he sends Moshe Rabbeinu, tell them that this is what is in plans. Are they willing to sign up on it? Twice, Moshe Rabbeinu speaks to the people. He goes back and says, yes, they said yes. Then comes back only with consent. So yes, there is a ruler. Yes, there is. Hakadosh Baruch Hu is the final say in the matter. He is the final sovereign. But even when we take up his Torah, when we make a contract with him, it is only after consenting. He is not, he is my creator. He can push me around. Can't he? But no, that is the way of the Pharaoh. Hashem doesn't do that. Hashem teaches you that there is consent. Only with consent, he is willing to be your sovereign. He will be your sovereign any which ways, but your consent is important to be a part of this project. Then the second one is some kind of cognition. Throughout the Torah, you will see, for example, the Shabbat. You shall not work on the Shabbat, and your slave will not work on the Shabbat, and your animal will not work on the Shabbat. Why? Because you were slaves in Egypt. You have this understanding, the rationale. You learn from your experience. Now you have to grow. When there is a slave, you will let him go free on the seventh year, in the 7th year. Why? Because you were slaves in Egypt. You were a stranger. So you believe you should have the same kind of justice system for all, even for citizens and even for strangers. Why? Because you were a stranger. You understand that. How did you feel when your rights were abused? You know, Abraham Avinu ends up in Egypt because there's no food over here. His wife is snatched, taken away into the harem of the king, the pharaoh. Why? Because she is beautiful. Right? Did he have any rights? Could he say anything? No. No rights, no nothing. The strangers, the outsiders didn't have any rights. None whatsoever. Totally mercy of the king. Or even the noble class. Whoever likes whatever was snatching it. These are stories to tell us what exactly we set up, how we set up in Israel. Because of the experiences in Egypt, we were able to make a society, create a society, craft a society which will not stand for these ideas. The final one is concern. We said there is consent, and then there is cognition, and then the final one is concern. Concern for your brother, for the other citizen, for the person who is setting up this system with you. You have to, the whole mitzvot from A to Z is about how you will interact with your brother, with your neighbor, right? Throughout, the idea is that once you will be able to recognize and empathize with him, his problems, his challenges, once you are able to do that, then the system will be much different. Over here in Egypt, nobody cared about you. Over here, there is only care that will be able to set up a system that together you all will be able to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So while during the last class, I brought down a interesting piece, the 4 children in the Seder. So one of them is the Rasha. And what is this service for you? So in Aragada, the underline I said was on service, on you. So we answer him, for me, if you were there and with this attitude, you will not have been delivered. But Hashem delivered me because I was willing, right? Because he separated himself from others. That is in Aragada. But the Talmud Yerushalmi, there are 2 Talmuds when they studied and they opened up these passages, discussed these passages. So in Talmud Yerushalmi, the discussion is the underlining, what is this service for you, is not on you, but on the service. What is this service for you? Why is it service? Because he is asking, you were serving Pharaoh, and now you are serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What is the big deal? You are still slaves. You were serving one king, now you are serving another sovereign. How did it change for you? How did you become free? What are you talking about that you are free? That is the question that child is asking. So the answer to the question is this, that freedom without any boundaries is useless. it is not freedom, because it will always be some abuse of the other. The only way freedom will work is if you are concerned about the other person, if you recognize and grow from nobody. When I say recognize and go, it means that Pharaoh set up laws and Hashem sets up laws. We also have laws, but the difference is the law in Torah is teaching me, understand, when you were a stranger, how did you feel? Be cognizant of that fact. Out of that, there is growth. Out of that, there is a response. Out of that, you set up a ethical structure, right? It is not that Pharaoh said, yes, you have to do from tomorrow X, Y, Z, and you don't have any way of dealing with that, because it is not your, even if it is right, even if the command is correct and important for the political structure, it won't be something that comes through you. It is not something that grows through you. So that is why the service that we are in, as opposed to the service that the slaves were in Pharaoh, is totally different. The service we are in is able to achieve that balance between freedom and order. So we have freedom to choose whatever we want, but what do we choose? We choose order. Once we choose order, which is the Torah, only this balance achieves what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to achieve, and that is balance between the upper worlds and the lower worlds. Balance wherein HaKadosh Baruch Hu's sovereignty will be able to percolate over here, and we will not be able to lord on each other. Now, this whole system, I am explaining in very secular language, but the sages, they set up a system in halachot, in mitzvot, that automatically, like there was no taxes in Israel. There must have been taxes after the kings needed taxes to build the temple, build his palace, whatever. But what was there was a tithe. Everybody, out of his own, wish, was wanting to give it to the Levite, was wanting to give 10 to the Levite, and 1% of that went to the Kohen. This system doesn't force you. It is a system that is coming from inside, that you want to help. There is a law. Yes, there is a law. When I am going to harvest my, I'm going to cut my harvest, then whatever sheaves are left behind, or whatever standing crops could not be cut, you keep it for the poor. When I do that out of my own free choice, I would like to help the society to, be in balance. I don't want to hold everything that the Beracha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving me. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is promising me, you act like this and there will be unlimited shefa. That, in essence, is the difference of our service and the Pharaoh's service. But service is necessary. Only through service, only through this attitude that we want to sort of sacrifice ourselves for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because he is everything. He has, out of his chesed, given us boundless berachot. To have them and keep them, we need to be in his service. We need to recognize how to make that balance between freedom and order. Freedom to do whatever he wishes us to do. That is the kind of freedom. And then we have really, raised the sparks of freedom, that it is, there is freedom, but it is in a system of order where Hashem's divinity then can descend on it, because only on that the Spirit of God hovered over the deep. Finally, as I said, the kings of Israel were unable to keep this ball rolling. It was a very big challenge because, as I said, of the ups and downs of reality. Life is not easy, right? So there were times when there were good kings, there were times there were bad kings, but at some point we were not going along with the project, and we lost the sort of the soul of the project, so to say. So we had our kingdom, we thought we were fine, we were okay. But when that was lost, we were exiled again. What did that exile achieve? It sent us back to the wrong side of power again. Oh, you didn't learn the first time? I'll send you back again. Because only through growth will you be able to achieve this project. Humanity change to the initial project is just for us to set up a system which will speak for itself. And it has. The idea of democracy, the idea of people will rule, people's rule, the idea where there is consent of the people with the existing political structure, all that comes from Judaism. We have a constitution. Today, democracies have constitution. What is our constitution? The Torah. The Torah is our constitution. Even the king had to go along with the Torah. He had to keep a Torah 24/7 with him. Why? Because Torah is his constitution. And finally, we had the prophets who came against the king and against the priest to tell them when they were wrong. That was the system in place. But we missed the boat and we were again sent out again. Then we came back after 70 years. Dilly-dally, after some years, 200 years plus, we built the 270 years, we built the temple again. Tried to restart the whole project, and this time did it much more diligently. And Rabbinic Judaism was one of the sort of benefits, or one of the ways that we try to set up the system. And then again, we lost it. In the time of the Maccabees, we came back. And then again, we lost it. And we came back again. And now we are sitting in Israel. I am sitting in Israel. You are still to get here, those who are not in Israel. We have our own sovereign land. And we have a democratic system which is very close to what Hashem would have wanted us if there were judges. And Hashem is the Melech, Hashem is the king over us. Right? If we are able to recognize this whole system, that Pesach happens again and again and again. We are delivered and we are delivered, and we just got delivered 40, 50 years ago. Right? But there is a reason why we deliver it. It is because not to have complete freedom as was in the time of before Noah, but to have freedom so that we will be in service of HaKadosh Baruch. That is the project. If we will be able to do that, we will be able to retain this freedom and this is the most important thing, achieve the end goal, which we call it the Mashiach times. Mashiach times is we don't need to wait for the Mashiach for the Mashiach times. The minute I'm talking about ecology, I am doing something that needs to set a repair system in the reality of the world. Once I'm talking about how and why justice system should be, and I am playing a role of some Mashiach goal already. So when the Mashiach comes, he will do it in a much bigger way and much stronger. You don't need to wait for that, because whatever we set up over here and whatever we will be able to We are always, under the microscope. The reason we are under the microscope is because everybody wants to learn from us. They have learned from us earlier, and in their consciousness, in their deep, deep, deep unconscious, they know it is Am Israel that is going to signal the way out of this challenge. Earlier we have done that, and they know that. That's why we are under the limelight. We have to live up to our challenges, and that is the message of Pesach. So when tomorrow you all will be sitting in with your families, hopefully. Last year, unfortunately, with the COVID situation, we weren't able to do that. But remember, when you all will be sitting with your families, there is a lot of, you have a document in front of you, the Agada, which is a very archaic document. It is in a language that is very old, and it's very easy to miss the ball. You need to understand the story is about how we were slaves and we became free. The story is about how we were abusing our spiritual gifts, as in Avodah Zarah. We were, the father of Abraham Avinu was idol worshipper, abusing his gifts, and how we started and ended up as monotheists. The story is about how HaKadosh Baruch Hu removed us from slavery to freedom and brought us to the land of Israel. That story, with all the miracles, and is the core item that needs to go into every Jewish consciousness to recognize what he needs to do, how he is a cog in the whole mechanics of the system. It is because of that that I have to remember that I myself was in Egypt, and I was redeemed personally because Hashem wants to use me in his dream of making a society which is harmonious, a society which is in balance between freedom and order, a society where humans will be concerned and empathize with each other, will not abuse each other, and will not abuse HaKadosh Baruch Hu also. Because when we say that I want to manipulate you, human beings say that I want to manipulate, it is abusing him. It is in fact going against his basic nature, that he is the sovereign. You cannot. What you can do is always request. You send a request to the king. That is what it is. But you cannot play him. And that is what has been the history of humanity. Playing Hashem and playing our compatriots, our other brethren, so that I will only think about myself. That needs to change. Thank you very much. Please, any questions?
Does anyone have any questions for Rabbi?
Let me just bring a sidur over here. One second.
Okay.
Please think about questions. Think about something. Sorry. No questions? David, any comments? Is Johnny around with us? Johnny, any comments?
No.
Jerry, any comments?
Johnny is
Judah
not
around?
No, Judah also not.
So all those who have not done Bedichat Chametz in India, they need to do a Bedichat Chametz coming up. Search for the Chametz. I hope. Hi Jerry, bolo.
The entire system that you explained right now is a communal system with the king and everything. On a personal level, each one can do something about it. Everybody can do um, his part, because each one can participate without really convincing others. It is very difficult to convince others. So the system that we are talking about is seemingly so much community, but I think it will be more successful if everybody on a personal level starts doing something that will come to the community that does, a nation that does what is required. Focus on our families first. First might be families, because we just make the country the way Torah wants in one day. Thanks, Joshua.
Thanks, Jerry. No, it is true. I mean, it has to begin individually. In fact, even once we came into Eretz Israel after Pesach, right, after 40 years, we were not, although we became a nation, but we were um, individuals, and it was very difficult for us to understand how is it that we will be able to function as individuals without a king. So in the book of Judges, you see that you have every judge comes, and then the people did whatever was good in their eyes, sort of. But that good in your eyes should not be good in your eyes. It should be good in Hashem's eyes. And people did it without the king. They missed that mark over there. And that's why they needed a king. We don't really need a king. Hashem is our king. We have to act individually. Whatever moves you, you have to work towards it. And he is really, helping you achieve your part in the process. So you are right. We don't need to wait for the Mashiach or whatever. We are waiting because we don't understand that individually we can achieve. But if somebody decides, in fact, the Mashiach, whoever he will be, will be that individual who will understand this, that, oh, forget the Mashiach, I will want to do it, I will start doing it on my own. And once he starts doing on his own, then one fine morning people will recognize, oh, this guy is already doing stuff. Let's make him the Mashiach. That's how it is, right? So at least till we get prophecy. And if we get prophecy before that, then the prophet will come and tell us, oh, this person has the potential to be the Mashiach. So we will already know who is the Mashiach. But otherwise, that is the way to go. You are right. Thank you.
Rabbi, we can't see you, we can just hear you.
Sorry. Okay. Any more comments? Any more? Let's search for the hash cover here.
You are ready.
Okay. So we'll give 2 hashkavot and then we'll read the whole thing. What happened? Sorry about that. Okay.
We can't see you again, Rabbi.
You can't see me? I don't know what happened. My phone is. Can you see me now?
Yes, we can see you.
טוב שם משמן טוב ויום המוות מיום היוולדות. סוף דבר הכל נשמע, את האלוהים ירא ואת מצוותיו שמור. כי זה כל האדם, יעלזו חסידים בכבוד, ירננו על משכבותם, מנוחה נכונה, ישיבה לעליונה, במעלת קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מאירים ומזהירים, וחילוץ הסמים וכפרת אשמים, והקרחת פשע והקרבת ישע, וחמלה וחנינה מלפני שוכן מעונה. מחולקה תבע לחיי העולם הבא. שם תהיה מנת ומחיצת ושיבת נפש השם הטוב המרוחם הזכן ברוך בן אליעזר קולט. רוח אדוני תניחנו בגן עדן. תהי פתר מן עלמה הדן כראות אלה מראה שמיה וערה. מלך מלכי המלכים ברחמיו ירחם עליו ויחוס ויחמול עליו. מלך מלכי המלכים ברחמיו יסתירהו בצל כנפיו וסתר אהלו הזאת בנועם אדוני ולבקר בהיכלו ולכס הימים יעמידהו ומנחל אדניו ישקהו לצרור בצרור החיים נשמתו וישים כבוד מנוחתו אדוני הוא נחלתו וילווה אליו השלום ועל משכבו יהיה שלום כדכתיב יבוא שלום ינוחו על משכבותם הולך נכוחו הוא וכל בני ישראל השוכבים עמו בכלל הרחמים והסליחות יהי רצון ונאמר אמן. ושת חיל מנמצא ורחוק מפנינים מקרא שקר החן והבל היופי אישה יראת אדוני היא תתהלל תנולה מפר ידיה וללו בשערים מעשיה רחמנה דרחמנותה דילה היא ובממרה יתבראו עלמיה עלמה הדן ועלמה צדקניות וחזניות דאובדן רעותה ובממרה ובמקרה ובתקופה יאמר למעל קדמוהי דוכרן נפש האישה והצנועה הנכבדת מרת שולמית אשת ברוך בן אליעזר קולט. רוח אדוני תניחנה בגן עדן דית פטרת מן עלמה הדן כראות מלך ברחמיו יחוס ויחמול עליה וילווה אליה שלום ועל משכבה יהיה שלום כדכתיב יבוא שלום ילכו על משכבותם הולך נכוחו היא בכל בנות ישראל השוכבות עמה בכלל הרחמים והסליחות וכן יהי רצון ונאמר אמן. נחתם לדוד שאמרני אל כי חסיתי בך אמרת לאדוני אדוני אתה טובתי בל עליך לקדושים אשר בארץ המה ואדירי כל חפציבם ירבו עצבותם אחר מהרו בל אסיך נזקיהם מדם ובל אשא שמותם על שפתי אדוני מנת חלקי וכוסי אתה תומך גורלי חבלים נפלו לי בנעימים אף נחלה שפרה עלי אברך את אדוני אשר יעצני אף לילות יסרוני חיליותי שיביתי אדוני לנגדי תמיד כי ממני בלמוד לכן שמח ליבי ויגל תלותי אף בשרי ישכון לבטח כי לא תעזוב נפשי לשאול לא תיתן חסידך לראות שחת תודיעני אורח חיים סובה שמחות את פניך נעימות במנחה נצח ותשו הצדיקים מאדוני מעוזם ויצרה ויעזרם אדוני ופלטם מרשם ויושיים כי חסו בו. Thank you very much. זכה למצוות and חג שמח.
חג שמח, Rabbi. חג שמח.
Hopefully this Sunday is a Yom Tov in India.
Yeah.
So we won't meet this Sunday. Next Sunday is again Yom Tov in India. So,
no.
Friday.
24th.
No.
Sunday is next Sunday is available.
Yeah, 24th.
Right. So we'll set up a
Yeah.
class on 24th now.
24th, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rabbi, for taking so much time.
Thank you, Joshua.
Good
God
session.
bless you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you so much.
God
Thank
bless you,
Yeah.
Material.
Thank you all for joining. Take care, everyone.
Okay,
Bye.
Bye.
you and your family. Bye. Thank you. God bless.